All right, so today makes, actually not today, January 10th is the anniversary, the 2-year anniversary since I moved into my house. So I am going to celebrate while I tell you a little story and give you guys some advice. Because let's talk about today's housing market, okay? Today's housing market is like out of control, like something we've seen before, but no one really wants to admit. If you were alive or old enough to remember what happened in 2008, yeah, let's think about that time. And it looks like that might be happening again soon. So I'm gonna tell you a story about how I became a homeowner to this lovely home. And I understand that nowadays in today's market, it's like everything just shifted from like 2021 to 2023. It became possible to impossible. And if I was in that position now where I hadn't purchased a home yet and I am hoping to purchase a home, and I don't see how with the interest rates and the prices the way that they are, especially if you live in the city of Miami, but anywhere in this country for that matter, then I'm gonna give you some tips, tricks, and what I would potentially do if I was in that position, because I have wanted to be a homeowner pretty much my entire life. I don't know what it is. Maybe it was the Barbie houses I used to play with when I was a kid, but I had an obsession with homes and houses. I used to love riding my bike all around neighborhoods and just check out the different houses and the different architecture. Maybe in a past life I was an architect, but I've always wanted a peaceful home of my own. And so a homeownership was always going to be on the top of my list. So let's talk about how I got here and how I would get here again if I had to do it in today's market. Let me just take a sip of this. Oh, that's good. Cheers. So, it's quite a bit of a story. In my last video, I talked a little bit about how after I left my toxic relationship, I lived with my mother for a year. I also helped establish ways of establishing a stable income, but I can't get into that in every single video. So this video in specific is going to be dedicated to trying how you can try to get a house, how you can try to buy a home, become a homeowner. As we all know, owning a property is one of the greatest assets that a person can have. Now, some people might see it as a liability, some people might see it as an asset. If you've ever read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad or Think and Grow Rich, you would see that there are different ways of looking at things. Liabilities are things that take money out of your pocket, and assets are things that put money in your pocket. So a house, while it is simultaneously both at the same time, it's still one of the most valuable things you can ever do. Why? Because even though it's a liability, because you have to pay taxes and insurance and a mortgage, you have to pay in order to live there, you're also gaining equity. We all know this, right? When you're renting, you're paying a monthly fee and it's coming out of your pocket, but you will never have equity. You have to live somewhere, right? So owning a house just makes more sense. And let's say you decide, I don't want to be a homeowner anymore, this is way too much work for me. You can sell and bam, there's your equity, and you can rent for the rest of your life or go live in the woods or go, live with your grandma, do whatever you want. But let's think for 1 second about the economy that everyone is experiencing right now. Buying a house right now seems very, very, very scary and intimidating. And if I were you in this situation, in this economy, not having had purchased a home yet, wanting to purchase a home, I would wait. I know it sounds crazy, but why? Why wait? Properties are always going up in value. The houses are just gonna get more and more expensive. I can't wait, I have to buy something now. Had it been 2017 and that was the mentality, I would have said, you're right, go for it. Buy it now before it gets more expensive. Because if you just think about, we're in 2024, think about 10 years ago, 2014, or 20 years ago, 2004. Housing has gone up exponentially so fast that if you didn't buy yesterday, you were too late. With that said, we hit a recession in 2008. And for the first time in a lot of people's lifetimes, not ever, but for the first time for a lot of people, we did experience that the housing market started to crash. And I'm not gonna get into the reasons, but there are economical reasons for this. So the way things are happening now, I blame this inflation on the pandemic, to be quite honest. My logic simply tells me that because of the pandemic causing everyone to go on lockdown, businesses had to stop businessing, and everybody had to close, people got laid off, people weren't working. Who's gonna go out shopping and buying anything but the bare essentials and the bare necessities? So a lot of businesses, a lot of the socioeconomic, hamster wheel slowed down, and a lot of people were not making money. And so all the stimulus checks that were given out were causing people to feel like they had all this extra money that they really didn't earn. Nobody did the work to make that money. They just got it from the government. The government just printed it out. So they stimulated the economy by going out and going shopping and spending it because, they felt like they deserved it. And that caused prices to come up a little bit, but not so much that, so much as it is the fact that once the lockdown was lifted and everything started going back to normal and all these businesses started to resume, they're like, oh my God, we've lost business for this long and we've been low on revenue. We need to increase our prices to make up for the loss. And that's why we're in the mess that we're in now. And since everything is so expensive, the feds will raise the interest rates so that they can help combat the inflation. If interest rates are going up, then people slow down on buying houses. They slow down on shopping and spending so much because they can't afford it. Everything is getting too expensive. And so this also poses another problem because now we have people that are not going out, they're not shopping, they're not buying things, they're not, spending money, which will essentially cause a lot of businesses to let go of employees, and that can also hurt the economy. But what will eventually happen is that they will have to reduce their prices. If there's no demand, the supply, has to go down, so prices have to go down so that they can get rid of inventory. And so once this starts to happen and we start to experience this deflation, which is coming, hopefully that's when the feds will realize it's time to bring those interest prices back down, and that should help with the housing market. But before that happens, I predict that there is going to be another housing crash. So whatever it is that you're doing right now, stop what you're doing. Stop what you're doing and sit down and do your numbers. Do your budget. Open up a spreadsheet, open up a notebook, and do your numbers. How much money do you make? How much money do you spend? Like literally go down each and every single thing. This is rent. This is how much we pay for this personal loan. This is how much we pay for the car. This is how much we pay for the cell phones. This is how much for et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then look at the difference. How much you have to save after you've paid off all of your expenses. That gap, that amount of disposable income, stop blowing it on shopping and groceries and things like that. And start saving. Saving. You're gonna need some money saved up, okay? When these interest rates go down, not the inflation, the interest rates, the whole notion of marry the house but date the interest. Let's not do that. That's like saying buy the house now so you have it and you locked it in, and then the interest sucks and it's really high, but when the interest rates come back down, then you can refinance and lower it. That doesn't make any sense because you don't know when interest rates are going to go down, and it may be years. And on top of that, refinancing isn't always the best thing in the world because then you start the amortization schedule all over again, which is like starting from the very beginning where you pay the highest interest all over again. So if you cannot refinance, it's best not to, but only if you absolutely have to. It looks like you're saving money in the end, but you're really not. So save all that money and start working on your credit. If you don't have credit cards, if you don't use a credit card, get a gas card, get a simple credit card with preferably zero interest, or if it doesn't have zero interest, something that has cash back or some sort of points system. And just use it for your daily stuff that you're gonna have to budget to pay anyway. Things that will come out of your checking account anyway. Like your groceries, your gas, things like that. And when you use your credit card and you pay it off right away before the statement even closes, you're not going to pay any interest, and this helps to build your credit. Never be late to pay your credit card and try to not have a big balance and try to not have a balance for a long period of time. So if your credit is good and your savings are good, it doesn't even really matter what your income is. When the housing market crashes and interest rates come plummeting down and housing prices are low, that's going to be the opportunity for you to buy a house. So I'm going to tell you my story, but before I do that, I need another sip of this because this is so good. I don't want to keep you guys waiting, but I love Prosecco. Anyway, I did not want to live in the neighborhood that I first bought my first home. This was not my first home. This is my second home. I don't own two homes. I bought a home and I sold it, and then I bought this home. So even if it's not the home that you want to live in forever, if it's not your forever home, it's okay. Buy something so that you can get equity. Think of it as an investment. Think of it as there's going to be a return on your investment, which is also known as ROI, right? Return on investment. I saved up money while I lived with my mom. My credit was really never bad, but I was looking for a property, and everything that I wanted in the area that I wanted was out of my price range. The only thing that was nice, that I would be happy with, that was in my price range, was far away. It was 20 miles south from here, and I didn't want to live in that neighborhood. And I just kept, no, I don't want to. Now the Prosecco is getting to me. And I realized that I had to stop being such a big baby. Stop being such a big baby. Oh, because it's so far for my drive, for work, and for my kids' school, and my mom, and my ex, we have to co-parent, and I gotta drive 20 miles back and forth. Was it stressful? Yes. Did it suck living that far, getting home, commuting to and from work? Yes. But it was a sacrifice, and it was worth it. So I found this house online. Every single day I was on Zillow looking and looking and looking, and then clicking the button to try to talk to the agent to see if I can see the house. And all these agents were like, sorry, it's already pending. Sorry, this one's already been sold. Sorry, blah, blah, blah. And it was just no after no after no after no. But don't let that stop you. Keep going. Eventually I found this property and the realtor showed it to me right away. And it turns out by coincidence that my sister, who also works in real estate, knew this realtor, knew the lenders, knew everybody, and they helped me to get the property because there were multiple offers on this property and I could have easily not gotten the property. So when something's meant for you, it's meant for you. Okay, so just keep going and have faith. And if it doesn't work out, keep going, because that means that's not for you. That means that there's something out there better for you. So I bought this property in December of 2019. I think I closed like right after December. I think I closed like in January. I remember moving in January 4th of 2020. And then the pandemic hit. So in those 2 years, I lived in that house. I didn't remodel anything. It was a little two-story townhouse where like, all the houses are connected, and it had like a little tiny driveway, no real front lawn. It was in an association, had a little gated area right before getting to my door. It was a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. So we had a half bath downstairs, a little entryway that was like a little teeny tiny area, and then we had a little dining area, a tiny little kitchen, a little family room, a little space in the backyard. Everything's little stairs upstairs, and I had my washer and dryer, my kids' bathroom, my kids' 2 bedrooms. They had their own rooms, and then I had my master, and my master bathroom and closet were huge. Everything was remodeled in this house from the previous owner, and I absolutely loved the house. I hated the location, but I loved the house. I would have loved to like picked up that house and just brought it over here with me. But I enjoyed my time living there for 2 years. In those 2 years, the house's equity increased by well over $100,000. And the market shifted, the market changed, and it became a seller's market. So if you are a single woman or a single mother and you are not keeping up with the trends and the knowledge of understanding our economy, the housing market, investments, finances, you need to get on that. Get on the ball. If you're like, oh, that's so boring, try to get into it. Think of it as like it's your obligation, your moral duty. It is your responsibility, like taking care of your kids and like paying your bills, because it does not serve you to not be familiarized with these things. So pay attention to the market and what it's doing. Watch YouTube videos. There's tons of people that you can find on here. There's a really cool guy. I think his name is Michael Bordenaro or something. He's amazing. He was a realtor and now he does this full time. So get familiarized with the market and what's going on. There was a time in which I realized this house, if I sold it now, would make a lot of money. But I didn't really know where else I could go. There was really nothing else that was available. So in my situation, I wasn't actively looking, but I'm sure if I had been looking, I would have found something. But what ended up happening to me was that coincidentally, the house across the street from where my mother lived became available all of a sudden. So I lived in my mother's house until I was 7 years old, since my parents got divorced. And across the street, there was a family, and there was a girl and her brother, and I remember us playing as kids in the street. And then they moved out several years later, and then a little old couple moved in about 20 years ago. And they've lived there for 20 years. And first the little old lady passed away, and then several months later, the little old man passed away. And this was around the time of COVID. I think it was around 2021. October of 2021 is when I found out about this. That's when my mother told me. And she's like, why don't you buy that house? And I'm thinking, Mom, are you nuts? Are you crazy? I can't buy that house. The house is so expensive. It's so out of my price range. There's no way in heck I'm gonna be able to buy that house. And then she's like, you never know. I don't know. I kind of see you in that house. And I'm here thinking, what? How is she? So my mind automatically, instead of thinking of, no, I can't do that, my mind likes to think, I wonder how I can do that. And I looked at the house and I looked it up online and what the value was, and I thought, okay, I called my lender who did my loan for my last house and I said, hey, how much do you think I can get approved for based on my income and my credit and all that? She's like, well, how much can you afford monthly? And I said, well, here's my plan, okay? There's a house hacking technique that a lot of people do in the city of Miami, and I'm sure in other places in the world, where you create an in-laws quarters, or the new houses that are being built today, they call them next gen, where inside of a 3-bedroom house or a 4-bedroom house, there's a section of the house with a doorway that leads to the outside, and there's also a doorway that leads to the inside where there's a separated little area that's like a little apartment. And it has a little kitchen, it has a little main living area, a bedroom, and a bathroom. And people can live there, a mother, a father, an aging parent, a cousin, a relative, or you can rent it out. Like a roommate, except instead of sharing the main living area and each person is in their room, they have their own separate space. So you can build that, you can create that within any home actually. You just need the contractors and the permits and the licenses and all these things. So my ex-husband had one of those in his house, and my mother-in-law had one of those in her house, and my mom had one of those in her house. So I looked at the house and I looked at how much it would cost monthly, and I'm like, no, I cannot really afford that monthly amount. I mean, I could, but it would be taking a big chunk of my income, and that's risky. You don't want to spend more than 30% of your income on your mortgage. Some people are spending 40, 50%, and that's where this was about to put me. So I had to, around 50%, possibly more. So I had a plan. I said, if I buy this house, the only way that I'm going to be able to survive in it is if within 1 year, I only had 1 year, I have to build this in-laws quarter so that I can rent it out. Because typically what happens, now this is from my two experiences of buying a house. I don't know if this is what happens every time, but when you purchase a house and the title company does all the numbers, they have to input some sort of property tax assessment. But the house hasn't been assessed yet. It's usually assessed the following year after the purchase has been made. So what do? They go by the taxes of the property currently, which is usually whatever it was when the previous owners were living there, especially if they had a homestead exemption. The property taxes are going to be significantly low. So they quote your mortgage based on those property taxes, your insurance, your principal, and your interest. So your monthly payment in your first year tends to be lower than what you are going to be paying going forward. So then the following year, the tax assessment is now reevaluated, and they're like, wait a minute, this is a huge shortage. What she paid last year, her first year, was not enough. It should have been this much. So now you got to make up for that and pay your taxes for that following year. So now you're paying way more. So year 2, which for me was 2023, because I closed in this house January 10th of 2022. I found the house October of 2021. I spent 2 years in the first house and 2 years in this house. And 2023 kicked my butt. My mortgage went up extremely, exponentially, like just skyrocketed. And I knew it was going to happen too. And I was prepared for it. However, there were a few other wrenches in the machine that just kind of ruined everything for me. But I found a way to manage. But before going into all that, when I got to this house, after I paid my realtors, after I paid my closing costs, I had money in the bank. I do wish to be private with my numbers. So if you want to talk one-on-one, or if you want me to, address your situation, you're more than welcome to send me your story and your numbers. And if you want me to make a video about it and assess it and tell you what I think of your situation and how you can make things better, we can do that if you'd like. But for now, I'm not going to specify specific numbers, but I'm just going to tell you that it was possible. Did it look scary? Yes, but it's possible. So long as you have a steady, stable job, and you know that your next paycheck is coming in, and you know that you do good quality work, and you feel good about where you're employed, and your employers are good, you can expect a raise every year. If you're not getting one, you should ask for one. And if you're cautious about your spending and you stick to your budget, you should be okay. So I was going to be in a very tight situation, but I knew that I could manage it somehow, some way. There were moments, don't get me wrong, where I was freaking out, where I was really scared that I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do this, but I had faith. I had faith, and I prayed every single day, and I still pray every single day. I'm thankful for all of the blessings, for everything good that has happened, and everything difficult, I just pray for more strength. So anyway, back to the subject. I had money in the bank from the sale of that house. I put a significant amount as a down payment. It wasn't 20%. So when you don't put 20% down on a new mortgage, you are slammed with mortgage insurance. And that is why I'm opening this thing up today, because today I just got a call from a home property evaluation guy. He's gonna come to my house tomorrow morning to check it out, take some pictures real quick, and be in and out, because he's gonna save me money, because he's gonna get that $151 off of my mortgage. Cheers to that. Hang on. Anyway, $151 doesn't sound like a lot. So why am I so happy? I don't know. I'm one of these people, I just get really happy about every little thing. Because typically when you have mortgage insurance, it's because your down payment was less than 20%. Typically, that mortgage insurance is tacked onto your mortgage for about 4 years. So it won't expire by itself for me until 2026. But if you're savvy and you read and you're smart and you go to your website of your lender and you keep reading and learning and be informed about things like this, you will see that if you are at the 2-year mark since you purchased your house and your property value has gone up by at least 20%, you can have that mortgage insurance removed. Because that 20% is basically making up for, that 20% in equity growth is making up for the 20% that you didn't put down, if that makes sense. So what they call this is the original loan to current value ratio, meaning this is how much I owed on the original loan, and this is how much the house is worth now. The difference has to be 80% or less, right? So if it's 80, 70, 60, 50, you're in the clear, okay? If it's more than 80%, then that means that you have not made a 20% or greater growth in your equity, and you can't qualify to get that removed. So I know I qualify. I know because I checked the property of my house on Redfin, on Zillow. I know what houses are going for in this area and Miami. And I know that the value of my property is going to be more than 20% from the last time, from my original loan. Plus, I did a lot of upgrades. I did a lot of remodeling. I did a lot of fixing. I poured all of my money into this house. Now, some would say that's not a wise idea. Some would say you should have invested it. You should put it in a Roth IRA. You should have, would have, could have. But for me, it was the smartest, best thing. Why? I had to live in this house for the first year under so much stress with all the dust and the construction, but I said, this is the only time I'm ever gonna do this. And it's not to say that it was the first time I ever did it. I have lived with my ex-husband under construction, and it is a nightmare. Having a kitchen redone, having floors redone, having a roof redone, it is a nightmare. There will be leaks, there will be messes. I don't want to ever do that again. So I said, if this is my forever home and this is where I'm going to be, I have the money now. I'm going to put everything into this house, and I'm never going to do anything to it ever again. This house is going to stay like this, with these floors, with these ceilings, with everything, with that kitchen. Over there, you can actually see my house. That's my outside balcony, but you can see my house like through the other door. That's my backyard area. Anyway, everything is going to stay exactly as it is until I'm old and they have to pull me out of my house, you know, by my cold dead fingers. And so that's that. I didn't want to deal with remodeling anything going forward. So I made everything very neutral, very tasteful, very clean and simple. But also, I knew I was going to make the in-laws quarter. So the way my house is structured, making my in-laws quarter was very simple. All it really required was putting up a wall in my hallway, because there's 2 bedrooms and a bathroom that lead to the outside, and you just convert one of the bedrooms into like a little kitchenette. It's just a bedroom with a closet. All you do is remove the closet doors and put some cabinets and a little microwave and a mini fridge, and you can create a sink using the pipes that are in the walls from the bathroom, and the other side is their bedroom. So that is a 1-bedroom apartment that I have rented out. So I needed that to be in pristine condition, because there's a lot of competitive, efficiencies is what we call them down here in Miami, and I wanted to ask for a good amount. So I had someone live there for 7 months. She was fantastic. She got a job in another county, so she had to move. And then now I have a young couple there who absolutely fell in love with the space and are so happy to be there. And I'm so happy to have them, because they're amazing. They're quiet. They work all the time, and they're the best. I couldn't ask for better tenants, knock on wood. They are the best. So that was able to be finished and rented out before January of 2023, when I knew my mortgage was going to skyrocket. So I started getting the income. And then bam, the mortgage skyrocketed. And then I got a notice from the insurance company saying, hey, we're not gonna cover your insurance anymore unless you completely redo your roof. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? My roof passed inspection. You guys said that it had 5 years left. I thought I had at least a good 3 more years left before I had to redo it. There's no leaks here. The roof is sturdy. Insurance companies are cracking down, especially in South Florida, due to hurricanes and things like that, and they didn't want to cover it anymore starting January if I didn't redo it. So in December, I had to hire a contractor, and I did not have the money. I did not have the nearly $40,000 that it cost to redo a roof. So this forced me to consult with my lender once again. What do I do? And she referred me to someone who was able to get me into a home equity line of credit, which, if you don't know what that is, it's not a loan. It's not a home equity loan. It's a home equity line of credit, which kind of works like a credit card. So if you have a credit card and it has a $5,000 credit line, you don't owe any interest. You don't owe anything until you borrow money. Let's say you borrow money. Now you pay interest on the amount that you owe. If you pay down the balance, now you pay interest on that balance. But you can also take money out again, and you can put money back in, and you can take money back out. So you have 10 years where you can take the money in and out, but at the end of the 10 years, you have to pay off the full balance. And in those 10 years, you're paying only the interest. And if you don't pay it off in those 10 years, this is a lien on your house. It's basically a second mortgage. So if you don't pay it off, you do risk losing your house, but there are ways around that. For example, refinancing. But I know that I don't want to refinance. So I have a plan in place to pay off that line of credit before those 10 years are over. So with that said, that's what I used to redo the roof. And it was a very stressful year. My air conditioner also broke last year, and thank God my mother came to the rescue with that one and helped me out, because I was already at my wit's end. I couldn't do any more. I also had decided to completely change all of the windows and doors to hurricane impact windows and doors because I found a great deal with a local company who offered me 0 interest for 5 years. Very simple, a $300 a month payment. So everything was falling into my price range. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be tight in the sense that I don't have loose pocket change and disposable money to like go shopping and go eating out, but you know, I have enough money to pay all my bills and live. Am I gonna be living kind of tight for a little while? Yes, but this is about how long? Maybe like 2 or 3 years, and then everything, once it's paid off, the rest of my money that I had been using for all of these things that I was paying off, the roof, the windows, the materials that I had to purchase for the remodeling and the construction, would then just go to my pocket. I'll be able to save it. I'll be able to invest it. But at least I have my house settled. So I wanted to settle down first and just establish myself first and then go forward from there. So that's how I was able to do it. That's how I was able to purchase this house. Thank God, now that 2024 has started, the taxes have now leveled out. My mortgage has come down a little bit, which is allowing me some room to breathe. I cut back on a lot of expenses last year, and I have been focusing on paying down debts. I am underneath $10,000 of credit card debt. Those credit card debts were because of the remodeling work. My windows and doors will be paid off in less than 3 years. After the credit card debts are paid off, they should be paid off by July of this year. And once they're paid off, the amount of money that I've been allocating to paying those credit cards off is gonna then go to my home equity line of credit. I'm currently paying the interest only payment, but you wanna pay the principal as well. That's the only way you're really gonna pay it down. So I will focus on paying down that second mortgage. And that should be, if I'm calculating correctly, based on how much I'm able to send to them, it should be paid off also within about 3 years. So if we're in 2024, by 2027, I should have the windows and the home equity line of credit paid off. So I would just have to worry about my mortgage and my car payment and hopefully not get into any more credit card debt. But being that I'm done paying the HELOC, being that I'm done paying the windows, being that I'm done paying the taxes, I can then save more money, invest more money, and I could also throw money at my car loan to bring it down. Why would I do that? Why don't I just pay it off in the 5 years that I have? Well, the only things that I'm paying interest on is my house. I have a 3.125% interest rate. The home equity line of credit, which is the second mortgage, aka HELOC, which is at a 9%, and then my car, which is about 6.94, aka 7%. These are the 3 things I'm paying interest on. None of my credit cards have interest. My windows don't have interest. Nothing else has interest. They're just being paid down little by little with 0 interest. So once I've paid off everything that has 0 interest, I want to knock out the things that have the highest interest first. Because if not, the longer you hold on to that debt, the more you're going to be paying out of interest, which is why the line of credit, the HELOC, is the first thing that I want to pay down once I'm done with the credit card debt. And once that's paid off, the windows, I'm not in a hurry. I'm just going to make my little monthly payments until it's done, but it's scheduled to be done in about 3 years. But I'm going to be focusing on throwing all the money at the HELOC so that I can pay that down. And then all I have left is my house, my mortgage, and my car. But my car is at a 7%. My mortgage is not that bad. So pay off the car. My car, I want to make another video. I know I said this in my last video. I do have a list that I'm going to go through to help you guys out with ideas on what is the best way to buy a car. But anyway, I bought out my lease, and my car is a 2022 Mazda CX-5, and I absolutely love my car. I had been leasing cars for about the last 4 years, but prior to that, I only ever drove 3 cars since I was 17 years old. So I have purchased and paid off and owned vehicles until they died, and I have leased vehicles for 2 or 3 years and gotten a new one. And I've experienced what it's like to have done both. And I used to be an avid believer in leasing, makes more sense, but now I have decided that purchasing this vehicle and taking good care of it and having it last me for as long as possible is what makes the most sense for me right now. But we'll get into that on another video. I want to talk about the housing things right now. So once the car is paid off, then I can make additional principal payments to the house. So refinancing for me, unless you absolutely need to do it, is a big fat no-no. Because if you see how mortgage companies charge you, the bank wants to get paid first. So it's like if you're paying for your house twice. You're paying for your house and then you're paying the bank. And Who's gonna get paid first? You have your house paid outright, or your bank gets their money back? They want their money back right away. So when you get a mortgage, you start off with your interest rate way up here at the top, where your interest rate costs more than your principal. The principal is the amount that you're paying for your house. And then as the years go by, your interest rates start to come down, right? But the amount of principal that you're paying starts to be more. So out of your monthly payment, it's heavy on the principal, heavy on the interest and very low on the principal. You have to reach about 7 to 10 years of paying off your mortgage if you're in a 30-year fixed rate mortgage to break even and meet in the middle, where your principal and your interest are about the same, before now all of a sudden the interest is actually lower and your principal payments are actually, you're paying more money towards paying off your house. So with that said, the faster you can pay off your principal payments and pay off your house, the less interest you're going to pay over time. Same thing with the HELOC, right? You're paying based on off of your balance. But you are put into this fixed mortgage doesn't mean that you cannot make additional principal payments. So let's say you have an extra $500 a month or an extra $1,000 a month because you paid off your credit cards, you paid off your windows, you paid off all these things. You have money saved in the bank, you have investments. What do you do with this extra money? If you can make an extra principal payment, if you only make one extra mortgage payment per year, that will significantly reduce the amount of years that you're paying your house. You're not going to end up paying it in 30 years. I forget how many years you're going to cut it down by, but it's by a few years. But let's say you can send an additional $800 of your principal payment per month. You are now lowering your principal payment even faster, which means you're gonna meet that breaking in the middle sooner. Not in 7 years, but less. You're gonna actually be paying less interest and you'll be able to pay off your house in less than 30 years. So that is part of the goal. So it's part of my plan, right? I have like this checklist, and this was all in my mind from day one. Buy the house, use all the money to remodel the house so you can build that in-laws quarter, rent it out. Now you have to pay back all the materials that you put on a credit card and pay off all that credit card debt. But oh my gosh, now I gotta do the roof. Oh my gosh, now I gotta do the AC. Like all these things popped up. Oh my gosh, now inflation came and kicked my butt. Like boom, sucker punch. My AC was like cranking and it wasn't working, so my electric bill was so high. My water bill went up, my groceries went up, just like everybody else, that I had to cut back on certain expenses. Like I said in my previous videos, doing my lashes, doing my nails, things like that. And I'm okay with that because my main goal is to establish stability. For me, stability is the most important thing. And I know that it's an illusion. We can all lose everything at the drop of a hat. But if we're cautious and we're careful and we plan ahead and we take good care of our health, take good care of the things that are valuable to us, like our employment and things like that, we should be okay. So with that said, I am going down my checklist and that's how I am doing it. My goodness, I'm at 35 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up by quickly telling you, if I was in your position right now, if I don't have a house, if I don't own a house, I'm renting or I'm living with a relative, and my goal is to buy a house, this is what I would do if I were you. And I said it already in the beginning, I'm gonna say it again. Work, find yourself steady income. Don't be afraid to jump ship and switch jobs if you see that your employer is not offering you raises, if you see that your employer is overworking and underpaying you. Always be looking for the next better job. When you apply for a new job, always ask for significantly a couple dollars more than what you're already getting at your old job. If you change jobs every 2 to 3 years, it is proven, there is research studies that show that people make more money in the long haul than people who stay in the same job forever. So focus on getting your money, get your bag, okay? Pay your bills, live within your means or below your means if possible. Be humble. Be humble, okay? You don't need those long ass nails with all those little stones. You don't need those big old lashes. You don't need that Gucci bag or those, Louis Vuitton shoes. Relax, okay? Be humble. Put money away. Make sure you have a savings account that is equivalent to 3 months worth of your income. If you don't have a retirement fund at work, then start a Roth IRA. You don't have to contribute a whole ton. Make sure you have your savings account first, but you can contribute up to $5,000 to a Roth IRA. If you do have a 401k at work, contribute at least 3%. With the money that's left over, if there's any money left over, after you've paid your rent, you've paid your groceries, you've paid whatever, drive a simple car as well. Don't go crazy leasing these expensive ass cars. Get yourself a gas card so you can save and get some extra cents off of your gas. There's ways of saving money. Put as much money away on a separate fund aside from your emergency fund. Your emergency fund is your 3 months worth of income in case of anything. You want a house fund, right? Start putting money away and put money away and put money away. Use a credit card to pay the things like you normally pay, like your groceries and your gas, and pay it off every month so that your credit goes building. You need to use credit in order for you to have good credit. If you don't use it, it's going to plummet. Do not be late on a single payment. And be ready. Be prepared. Be ready to pounce, because when the market crashes, there are going to be so many houses foreclosed. People are going to be losing their jobs. I hate to say this. It's sad to have to point out the obvious, that some people win on others' misfortune. This is just the way of the world, okay? We are living on borrowed land. When I'm long gone and dead, this is not going to be my house anymore. So we all have our time, our moment in the spotlight to shine. There will be people who cannot afford their homes anymore because they lost their jobs, they got too old, they got sick, they retired, they don't have enough put away for retirement, and they have to sell, or they have to do a short sale, or they end up foreclosing. Interest rates are so incredibly high. A lot of people are not purchasing right now, so this is hurting the housing market. So a lot of people that are trying to sell their house cannot sell their house, and they're stuck in something known as the golden handcuffs, where they have this giant equity nest egg, that this golden egg that they cannot even liquidate because they can't seem to sell their house. And the prices are going to plummet on these houses, so they're going to end up taking a loss. So when the house prices go down and the interest rates go down, that is your chance. That is your chance. It doesn't matter the location. It doesn't matter the condition of the house. If you have to sleep on an air mattress in that house, do it. Get your money, get your credit, and as soon as you see a property that you can afford, you're going to buy a property, any property, and live in it. Live in it and give it some time. Give it 2, 3, maybe 4 years. Keep an eye on the value of your property. There are tools online that you can use. It's so simple. You can just track it on Zillow, or you can talk to your realtor about it again. And when your house increases in value and the market starts picking up again, you can start looking at, where am I at now financially? Have I gotten a better job? Have I been able to get a couple of raises under my belt? Did I finish paying off some debt? You can then consider shopping around for a new house and selling your current house, because you're going to have your nest egg, your equity, your golden egg to be able to put into your next home, which should then be a better home, a forever home. Unless you like the first home that you got. No one said that you have to move out. You don't have to do that. But if it's not your ideal home, if it was just a starter home, then that's going to be your foot in the door. So don't be in a hurry to try to lock something down right now because of FOMO, because of that whole fear of missing out, that if I don't buy a house now, I'm never going to buy a house. Give it some time. The market is going to crash again. If you don't want to listen to me and you want to buy one now, do whatever you want. I'm not sitting here claiming to be a realtor. I'm not a market, psychic. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm simply a woman who came from an abusive relationship, who grew up in a weird household with an addict for a brother, and just wanted her peace and her freedom and her independence so badly. And I did everything I could in my power through trials and tribulations, through trial and error. I learned, I made mistakes, and this is how I got to where I'm at. So I'm sharing this information with you because we all deserve to succeed. So cheers to that. I hope you guys get your house someday. I hope you guys are doing right by yourselves and you're not burning money and burning a hole in your pocket, saving your money, looking for better opportunities to make more money so that you can live the life that you want. Please like this video, please subscribe and share with your friends, and I will see you guys in the next one.